Hello, my beauties. I would like to remind you that if you're interested in supporting Unspoiled, you can do so by supporting the War for the Tower podcast. If you haven't heard of it yet, the War for the Tower podcast is an actual play podcast set in the world of Stephen King's Dark Tower. I don't know how many of you have read those books. I covered them for Unspoiled with Miles, but they don't end the way many of us were hoping. And the War for the Tower aims to correct some of those errors. So, if you love the story, you wanted more, but you just didn't want more from Stephen King, check them out at warforthetower.com or search War for the Tower on your podcatcher.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Doctor Who, the David Tennant specials. Episode 7, End of Time, Part 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I made that joke for Ryan. If you're out there, Ryan, that's for you.
I was going to say.
In this episode, it's a lot of Dr. Flimflam again. And we get our new guy. He's surprised that he has ears? Or was worried about it? I would like to see some previous incarnations of the Doctor, because his puzzlement over that surprises me.
He also was very happy he still had legs.
Indeed. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha.
And I am Jamie.
This episode, first of all, was way longer than I anticipated, so I left Jamie waiting. Apologies on that again.
That's all right.
And was also full of surprises because I did not realize that the Time Lords were looking at everything from the past, that we were, like, seeing. I mean, I should have, but I was like, oh, maybe there are a bunch of, like, there's, like, a pocket dimension of time that they, like, jumped into. And they are hiding out there, and they're, like, coming out of hiding all of a sudden.
That's kind of what I thought, too.
Yeah. But no, it turns out that they are, like, because, Time Lords, seeing things that are going on in the future because of a prophesier. This bitch, with her... I don't know what her deal is, but she really made me uncomfortable. Did not care for it. And the reason that the Master just has this drumbeat in his head for his entire life is because they put it there. Mm-hmm. Which is really fucked up.
I think what we learn ultimately in this episode is Time Lords are dicks.
Indeed. And it's sort of, like, impressive that the Doctor manages to avoid being a dick for as long as he does. Like, in terms of choosing to be, like, tough, I have the power, I'll do what I want. Because that kind of seems like how they are at large in general. Yeah.
And as it turns out, he basically facilitated the end of the Time Lords because they were going to just try to take over and let everything get destroyed.
Basically, yeah. It seems like the idea was, we don't care if everything else perishes because we won't even be, like, corporeal anymore. So it won't matter to us, so who cares?
Yeah. Like, this was their plan, and the Doctor's like, well, that's diabolical. I have to stop you. And so whatever he did in the Time War that ended the Time War and ended the Time Lords and the Daleks, he was really doing it to, like, literally save the entire universe.
Which makes his hatred of the Daleks feel a little bit disingenuous to me in retrospect. Like, not that they weren't awful, but he often, like, accuses them of basically committing genocide against his people. And apparently, like, that is their jam. So I'm not trying to say he's lying, but finding out that ultimately he is the one that put a stop to everything that they were doing, and finding out that they were about to do some really awful, horrific, selfish shit, I'm not as on his side, R.E. the Daleks, as I was just a couple episodes ago. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of like, well, maybe your people sucked and had it coming a little bit there, buddy. I don't know. Maybe the Daleks were about to do us all a favor. I don't know. But, you know, the Daleks also wanted to destroy everything because they apparently don't need to eat. Mm-hmm. So, everybody's terrible is what it comes down to. What can you do? So, this bitch with her, what is she drawing? Is it the meteor? The diamond falling through the sky? Like when you first join up with this, the Time Lord, she's got her little pen and she's drawing this weird circle with all of these like squiggle marks all over it.
Oh, I think that's Gallifreyan language.
Is it?
Because their language is a lot of like circles and lines connecting circles. Yeah. You see it on the table, and you see it in the watch. The fob watch had that on the outside. That's Gallifreyan writing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it just looked to me like somebody bored in biology class or something.
She's just doodling a cell mutating.
So, your friend Timothy Dalton really seems to be playing himself here this episode, huh? He seems like a real asshole.
Very easy to believe.
This one lady is just like, hey, it looks like what we have going on here in this war is a lot of people dying and then being reborn only to die again millions of times over the course of eternity. Maybe that's bad, and we shouldn't want that anymore. And Timothy Dalton, a.k.a. the president, is like...
Rassilon, I think it turns out is his name.
Rassilon?
Rassilon, I think.
I suppose. All right, I'll allow it. He just has his infinity gauntlet that he force chokes her into dust with. So, we'll get back to this. But I have a lot of questions about why the Doctor was able to point a gun between two people for 10 minutes straight while this man has an infinity gauntlet and does nothing. I did not understand why he couldn't have just been like, you know what, I'm tired of waiting for you to decide. You're dead. Bye. Because I was thinking initially, oh, I guess that gauntlet doesn't work on Earth. But then it does. He very quickly shows that it does. So that is not the reason. So I don't really... He's just being very indulgent with the Doctor for reasons that I don't understand, because it's not like, oh, you're my long-lost son, and I'm, as much as you're against me, I hesitate to hurt you. He doesn't seem hesitant to hurt anybody. He seems fine with it. So...
Yeah, I don't have an answer. Other than the Doctor has plot armor.
Yeah.
So that's why.
All right. Impenetrable. So, yeah, we see this woman just dissolve in dust as he's yelling, I will not die. And he yells to everybody else, do you hear me? And they begin to look into the existing Time Lords, the last two who are alive, and they talk about the Master and this like beat that sort of made him mad. It's like, I'm assuming they think that if he had not been infected with this drumbeat, then he wouldn't have like gone bad.
Well, they put it in his head,
right,
as a signal that they could pick up later,
right.
But they didn't factor that it would drive him mad. But
the guy says it.
Does he?
I'm pretty sure, like, I'm going to bounce this back. Let's see.
The 4 beats is the because they have two hearts. It's the rhythm of their heartbeats.
Right. One word keeps being repeated. Earth, 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 earth. This woman, she is so funny. I'm sorry. She just is so like the old woman from Princess Bride going, boo! Let's see. The planet Earth indigenous species, the human race. I'm like, there are a lot of other indigenous species, but I guess we're the ones that like look the most like you. So I guess that's why we're important. So yeah, let's see. Our salvation on Earth. I'm trying to jump to all of the Time Lord scenes to like get the untempered schism. That's where it began. And history says the master heard a rhythm, a torment that stayed with him for the rest of his life. Yeah. So they're just basically like, they say a symptom of insanity, my lord. And he like realizes, oh, that's the thing. And is like, oh yeah, so we'll do that to him. The thing that you just said torments him and is a symptom of insanity. We'll definitely like be the ones responsible for that.
Yeah, so that we can then send him a diamond and track his location so we can pull ourselves out of this time pause we've put ourselves in during this time war and save ourselves.
Yeah, so like that is so deeply fucked up. Mm-hmm. That they're just like, yeah, we know it's going to make him like lose his fucking mind and probably perpetrate a lot of crimes because he's insane. Because we can see that happens because we're Time Lords, so we can look into the histories of things. But whatever. Let him kill tons of people and fucking run rampant over everything because he's been driven crazy by the thing that we are about to do to him.
Well, but they don't care if he kills a bunch of people because they plan on getting themselves to Earth and then becoming consciousness only.
I know.
And everything else ceases to exist.
They are the worst.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
I hate them. Ugh. And their stupid outfits. These stupid caps. And their hood things. Ugh, I hate them. So yeah. I'm trying to think exactly how to cover this because there's like a bunch of back and forth initially. But I feel like we pretty much covered what's going on with the Time Lords, so we can just go to Earth for now, right?
Yeah. That's their plan.
Right. So the Doctor, for his part, is Hannibal Lectered up onto this like dolly. Eventually, the Master like takes the gag off of him so that he can speak. But initially, he is being kept silent, and the Master is just like arguing with Wilf a lot. Yeah, because Wilf is just kind of being like, "What are you doing, dude?"
And also, then Wilf gets a phone call, and he's like, "What the fuck? Everyone is me. So who is calling you?"
Yes. How amazing, though. Can we just talk about let's say that you made a bunch of copies of yourself until the entire world was just you. You, and I don't mean you in particular. How about I change it? How about I say me? I am a defiant little fuck. I would not listen to me. Immediate anarchy. There is no way millions of me around the world are all just going to be like, oh, well, obviously, yeah, you're the original one, so you're in charge. Fucking no. Every single one of me is going to be like, get the hell out of here. I am on vacation. Thank you.
So I recently started watching the Clone Wars, Star Wars The Clone Wars on Disney+. Mm-hmm. And I just watched an episode today. I'm still in season 1. But the clones, which it's hard for me, I had to sort of reorient myself with this story because I really hated those prequels. I've only seen them once. I hated them. And then for a good 15 years, I didn't even acknowledge they existed. So I kind
correct approach.
Right. I kind of didn't remember what the deal was with the clones. I forgot that there were human clones and also those little battle droids. Like, in my head, all the clones were just those little battle droids that look like little birds, or to me kind of look like windmills that you see out in the desert in California.
Okay.
So I'm watching this, and then I realize, like, oh, all of these clones, they're the clones of Jango Fett. And so they all look the same, but they're all different. They have their own personalities, but they're clones of one guy. And they're on the good side. They work with the Jedi. There's an episode I watched today where one of them betrayed his brothers, essentially, and had, like, gotten a promise from a bad guy and gave her all the information she needed to, like, take over the space or whatever. And they figured it out, and they were like, how could you do this to us? We're your brothers. And he's like, I wanted freedom. You guys are just perfectly happy, like, going along being cannon fodder for their war. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't enough for me. She offered me freedom. It wasn't about money. Mm-hmm. It was about me making my own choices. And I just found that really fascinating because they're, like, locking this guy up for betraying them, but he's not wrong. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, like, guys, watch Clone Wars. It's actually really good.
I'm just like, there's a scene where he's like, I am the military, and he's like, we have access to everything of China's army, and yada, yada, yada. And then you see, like, a bunch of him all lined up, and I was like, these guys are all just like, oh, yeah, we're fine with dying in a war and being soldiers. That does not feel mastery to me.
Right. And you would think if they're all him, then they're all him. So they all have his, like, power-hungry, like, urges. Mm-hmm. But not one of them goes against him.
Yeah. I guess, like,
maybe they would if they had more time. They all have
his, like, pragmatism of being like, well, this is for the good of the one that I come from. But there's no, like, self-preservation. That means that they do not see themselves as real beings, that they see themselves as temporary fragments of a real being. And that's interesting.
Or just, like, extensions of him.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I also seem to know what he's thinking, and he knows what they're thinking.
Like, there's so many, my brain is going in 7 directions right now. Sorry, guys. But yeah, like, the idea of them dying in this war. I mean, who is he going to war with, first of all? He's just wanting to, like, turn the Earth into a battleship against pretty much anybody?
They're not going to war. Basically, the Doctor escapes. He knows that he teleports with these cactus people.
Right.
They must have teleported onto a ship. And in order for them to teleport, the ship can only be so far away. So he wants them to find the ship so that they can turn all of the missiles, because now he has control of all the missiles on the planet, and aim them all at this ship.
But that is after. I'm talking about what he's talking about when the Doctor is still in his possession. Oh. He's talking about he says to the Doctor, the Earth is a battleship or a warship.
Yeah, maybe he just wants to turn the Earth into a warship against the rest of the universe. Because that is when the Doctor is like, or you could just travel with me and see the universe, and that would feel like you're owning it because you have access to it in a way that no one else does.
Like, you've made copies of yourself, dude. Send all of them on a cruise. And then you get to see it all over from a million billions of different perspectives at once. How rad is that? Like, the thing that's so frustrating about our short lives as human beings is that we're never going to get to do everything because there's just not time. We don't have time. Even if we had the money and the resources and all of it, we still just couldn't do it. But you can. Mm-hmm. Like, that'd be so... I wish that he had just done that and been like, you know what? I'm going to leave the Earth empty of human beings for the Earth's own good, which, honestly, thank you. And then I am going to go on a really long series of vacations and write a book about it. Probably.
There's no time to write the book when you have to see the whole galaxy.
He could do a vlog. How about that?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean...
It's much quicker to just talk into a camera.
Yeah. So, Okay. But yeah, all of the versions of himself have also inherited his appetite as well, right?
Yes.
They all have his same hunger.
And the drumming in the head.
Right.
They all have that too.
Which, man, but that seems like a real disadvantage. Like, if everybody is as hungry as you are, and you have been eating, like, I mean, that's going to get in the way pretty quickly, I would feel like. But we don't, they're not given enough time for that to turn into a problem. So that's irrelevant. I just found it interesting when Donna, who they wind up finding out where she is via tracking the phone, they are standing around her saying, like, they're so hungry. And I was really surprised by that because I kind of thought that the gate was going to fix that.
Right.
And instead, it just multiplied the problem, which feels like a real design flaw. Like, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't an upgrade. It was just actually multiplied you the way you are.
Mm-hmm.
Which really then means that they can all, like, shoot lightning out of their hands and jump really high.
Jump really high. Oh, my God.
But they don't do any of that. But how funny would that be if you just suddenly see them all just taking off like little fireworks?
Oh, I'm just seeing them jumping and like waving to people in the next state over. But they're like, oh my God, hi! I can see you! What are you doing? Actually, I know what you're doing because I can see what you're thinking. But hey!
So Donna, turns out the doctor put a little failsafe in there so that if she does start to remember, that she'll just emit all of this Time Lord energy and it'll make her pass out.
Yep.
But it won't kill her.
And it'll apparently kill the people around her?
Yeah.
Because that seems like a bad failsafe to me. Just, it works out in their favor this time around, but she could very easily have just been on the tube and like, yikes. But okay.
She's not really having these memories coming back without a trigger, and all of these people turning into this one guy seem to trigger, like, what the fuck? Oh my God, now I'm remembering all this shit.
I mean, that's fair. But nevertheless, like, the doctor didn't want to walk up to her on the street when her grandpa was pointing her out because he was concerned about it.
Yeah.
So I understand that's probably just him being like overly cautious.
And also he probably knew that if she emitted all this energy right on the street, it would
kill
just
everybody
kill
on the street. This is what I'm saying. Like, I kind of feel like
maybe give her grandfather and her mom that information as well. Like,
yeah.
Not only it might not kill her, but it'll definitely kill you.
Yep. Anybody I mean, these guys are like 20 feet away in the alley. They're not even that close to her. So basically the entire row house, everybody would die.
Yeah.
You know, like, yikes. But it's fine.
At least Donna's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. So the two cacti people come in and rescue him on the hand truck, but they do not take him off the hand truck, and he is very irritable about the fact that they are just getting him out of there physically, but not handling the rescue in the way that he wants it handled, and are not listening to him when he says that he wants to go to his TARDIS, and they take him up to their ship.
They take offense to being called cacti.
Yes. They say that is racist.
And also, in order to film the scene where he's lower down the stairs on the cart, the little dolly, he actually had to be tied to a dolly and taken down a few steps. And it had to be done a number of times. And apparently really hurt his back. He was in a lot of pain afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, it is really funny, honestly, when they finally do get to the ship and they don't let him loose right away. And he is just like kind of flailing. He looks like a penguin a little bit that's trying to like gesticulate, but its little wings and its little feet really can't move very far. So there's not much that it can do in that department. It's like if you saw a Tyrannosaurus Rex really trying to like have a tantrum.
Yeah.
You know, just his little feet, little arms, and you're just like, oh, look at him. He's so cute. What a dork. So they're on the ship. They are not traceable immediately, right?
Well, they are. He destroys the teleporter on the ship, which prevents the master and his people from following them up there. And then they destroy the teleporter on the ground, so he can't get back.
Right. Question. Can the Doctor jump out of a spaceship in space and survive? He can, right? I feel like we saw that at some point.
Did we see that?
I feel like we did, but I might be lying about that. Because I'm just curious, he's like, haha, now he can't get back. And I'm like, can't he? I'm not
I think it would depend
sure
on how high.
I
think he would have to be in the atmosphere. Otherwise, he would burn up.
Would he?
Well,
I am not feeling like I've got a great grasp of what the Doctor's limits are in terms of what he can take physically. It seems like it's very akin to like a human body at times, but not always, depending on what they need him to do. For example, he jumps out of the spaceship, crashes through a skylight and hits the floor of a building, and he's still pretty much fine. He's like weakened and has to take a minute, have a breather, but he's not dead, which we would most definitely have been.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just like really curious about what he's able to survive and not. Because, he absorbs all of this radiation.
Yeah.
And it takes a while for that to actually, quote, kill him.
We don't know how long that while was. He's able to jump around.
I mean,
quickly in time, Like,
yeah,
we see
but
him...
like that's still a while in comparison to whatever what was the last when he regenerated from Eccleston?
He took on the power of the time vortex.
And that
he took it from
long?
Rose. Well, not long, but Rose, like, it would have burned Rose up, and I would imagine that the time vortex is a lot stronger than nuclear radiation.
Yeah, okay. So, okay.
So it just works faster.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, so like one might say that he's like 10 times as durable as a regular person. I was going to say stronger, but that makes it sound like he can lift 10 times what a regular man can lift, and that's not true.
Yeah, because he's taken on radiation before and it didn't kill him.
Yeah. He can just sort of, it seems like, metabolize it, and it's like eventually he's over it.
Well, when it happened in Smith and Jones, he kind of died, but not completely died. Like, because he has the two hearts, it kind of, like, she thought he was dead, but then he wasn't. He was able to sort of heal himself because both of his hearts weren't affected, essentially, is what the answer was there. And it was probably not as much radiation, but this was like whatever the nuclear bolt was still left on, and so this was like a lot of radiation being dumped all in one spot. And he took it all on. So it's like he absorbed an atomic bomb.
Okay.
Instead of a, MRI machine.
Fair. Okay. I see what you're saying. Okay, so yeah, he has got every missile on Earth ready to fire. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. So they destroy that. On Earth, these guys destroy the other thing. And then we go to the nice little bit of the old Dr. Flim Flam from Wilf, who is very hopeful that the Doctor has an actual plan for what they are going to do. And then begins to realize that the Doctor has no such plan and is a little embarrassed about it, it seems like. And they are in the middle of talking together when the Doctor hears we jump over to the Time Lords sending the diamond.
Mm-hmm.
And once the diamond lands and the master is able to go and find it, he like announces it to the doctor.
Yeah.
Right? And the doctor seems to immediately know what it is.
Well, he says it's a white point star, and the only place that exists is on Gallifrey.
So a white point star is always used in this way to be like a tracking thing?
I don't have an answer for that. I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know if this is something that was made up for this episode or if it's something that has existed in previous episodes. Our listeners would be able to tell us that. I have no idea. If it's just a diamond that only exists on Gallifrey, and that's how when Rosalind, what is his name? Wait, Rossiter.
Rashomon.
When the president sends it through time, like it's a meteor, it's basically a signal, like, this has to be Time Lord because it's the only place that they exist and the only people who would have them are Time Lords.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, so let's see. I'm making sure that we... Oh, yeah, this is... Okay, the woman who pops up and talks to Wilf.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to have figured out who she was by the end of this episode?
Yes. Ish. You know when the Time Lords show up in their bubble.
Right.
On Earth. And they've got these two people from their Star Wars, like, arena of senators, whatever. Mm-hmm. Who were against the plan. So there's these two Time Lords that were against this plan. And he makes some comment about how they will be the weeping angels. And they're standing there behind him with their faces covered with their hands. Oh. At one point, she pulls her hands down, and you see that that's who has been talking to Wilf.
Okay. When I meant, are we supposed to know who they are? I thought, because, like, is she behind the Time Lord when they land on Earth?
Yeah.
Like, the way the doctor looks at her made me think that, like, that was his mom or something.
I don't know who she's supposed to be. They never say.
Okay.
She's just the woman Time Lord, I guess, or the woman who has been projecting herself to talk to Wilf. Because she also can see the future, because she's a Time Lord. So somehow she's projecting herself to give him guidance so he can, like, force the doctor to defend himself against this thing that's coming. Mm-hmm. And then we see that she's this... What I would like more explanation of is, okay, so the president guy says you will be the Weeping Angels. Is that how Weeping Angels started? So they were Time Lords that were forced to become statues? Because that almost makes sense. What the Weeping Angels do is steal people's lives and transport them into another time. Mm-hmm. And then they just live out their lives.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That's a good idea.
But there's, like, literally no other explanation of it. Like, you will be the Time Lord, or you will be the Weeping Angels, and that's that. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of, like, I thought that there was going to be... because all she does with Wilf is tell him... Like, first she's like, well, you haven't killed anybody, have you? So, a bit of a pussy, right? And then he decides to take his gun, and then the doctor shoots the thing that is sending the signal instead of the... So she came to Wilf just to make sure that the doctor had a gun at the appropriate time, pretty much?
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
I feel like that could have been done in a much simpler way.
Sure.
But okay, that's fine. I really expected the doctor to say something like "Mom" when she was standing there. So that was part, because, like, there's just something about the way he looks at her that I was like, is this about to be, like, a big thing? Should I recognize her from another? Like, I thought there was something else going on there, but okay. So I really enjoyed the scene where he, like, tells Wilf that he's 900 something years old. What, 96? 906?
Yeah.
And I like Wilf is a very good character. I enjoy him a lot. I get the feeling we're not going to see him again the way this episode ends, and I'm sad about it. But also, I'm kind of hoping that he's like out of immediate danger. Mm-hmm. Because he's just kind of been through it, you know? Like, I feel like he's done his due and he should get to rest now. And also, I should mention that this episode is when I finally get to see where that gif comes from. Another gif.
Which one?
The one where Wilf waves goodbye and is crying.
Yes.
Because I had thought, every time I'd seen it, I thought that was from the scene in the Turn Left episode where he was saying goodbye to the friend that they shared the house with.
Right.
But yeah, so he's just a very good actor, and he is so heartfelt in that scene, and it is really just so sweet. I love him.
Well, I told you, the reason that they brought him, because he was originally not in The Runaway Bride.
Right.
And then he was in the episode with the Titanic.
Right.
And then when they were getting Catherine Tate back, originally it was going to be her father. But the actor who played her father died.
Right. That's right.
And
I forgot you said
so, that. Yeah, so they brought Bernard Cribbins back because they loved him and made him her grandpa. Which works out really well because he is just so great. Like, you can't help but care about him.
I don't know why I haven't seen him in more things. Because there are a lot of British actors that I'm like, oh yeah, they've been in a million things and this and that and that. And he is somebody that I don't recognize from other stuff.
Let's see.
Maybe he's been and I just haven't seen it. But
I feel like he must have been. Bernard.
But he certainly doesn't have that kind of face where I'm immediately like, oh, I know him from something, you know?
Yeah. I didn't feel like I knew him either, but let me go back further because, my goodness, he has been working since 1956. So we'll just say we don't know any of this stuff from the 60s.
That's fair. Indeed.
He had a TV series called Cribbins, which his name is Bernard Cribbins. So,
oh, wow. I would love to have a TV series. That's just my name.
Right?
Yeah, someday. MTV Cribbins.
My God. Yeah, he's done a ton of stuff. Oh my God. He was the mock turtle in that crazy Alice in Wonderland that I love so much from my childhood.
Mock turtle?
Yeah.
Is that like a turtle that's fake? Like it's not really a turtle? Or is that like a turtle that mocks you?
I don't remember why he's called the mock turtle.
Oh, that's funny.
I would be like offended that you're like not knowledgeable about a character from Alice in Wonderland, but then I remember that you hate Alice in Wonderland because you're weird.
Alice in Wonderland is literally an acid trip.
Historically,
it is an acid trip. And I felt like it was an acid trip as a child, so I felt extremely validated when I found out that I was correct.
You should see this movie from 1985. It was a TV miniseries. It is bonkers. I love it.
Girl, no.
Yeah, there's really nothing. He's been in a ton of things. He's done a ton of British television, but I'm just not seeing anything that stands out.
Yeah.
But he's got 118 credits.
Damn. All right. So yeah, they get this announcement from the master about the white star, and immediately the doctor begins to panic, and poor Wilf is just like, what's the matter? This is your people. They've been gone. Why are you reacting this way? Isn't this good news? You can have a big reunion. We'll have a party. We'll celebrate. This is great. Aren't you happy? Just poor Wilf is like not reading the room here. And the doctor is really flipping the fuck out. Like, once you find out that he is specifically the one who stopped them, it really like hammers home how bad things must have been. But initially, I was just like, well, he knows that like this is going to like throw things out of whack or something. I didn't really think that it was just, well, he knows that they're all straight up evil. And then we find out that like that really isn't what they were like. It's simply what the war turned them into. And that they have been warped by it, essentially. Which really, like, one might argue that there's the potential for some of them, like maybe the two that voted against this whole plan, to be rehabilitated. But I guess they just all are going to be stuck back in that bubble, right? That's where they are sent back to, basically.
I think they're destroyed.
Are they?
I don't.
Oh shit! I thought that he was just disconnecting the like their link, and so they are able to, like, they just sort of lose the connection to Earth and to the Master, but they still exist somewhere out there. Like, even the way the Master goes after them, once it's his turn to shoot lightning, I guess maybe that could be the thing that destroys them, but I didn't think that was going to be enough.
This says the Doctor spins and aims his gun at the Master, who realizes that the link that brought the Time Lords to Earth was inside his head, and if he dies, the link is broken and the time lock is reformed. He points out that killing the President would have the same effect. Lord President coldly remarks that the final act of the Doctor's life is murder. Which one will he choose?
So that doesn't tell us anything.
Well, the time lock is reformed. So yes, I guess they get locked back in that bubble of their own creation.
Okay. So they're still, like, out there for all intents and purposes.
I guess.
Jamie seems really uncomfortable with this.
I'm just trying to, because I don't remember really thinking too hard about whether this means that they could come back someday.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm just trying to see if this says anything. Master counts the drums one last time, blasts occupy Rassilon long enough for a bright flash of light to send all of them, the Time Lords, the Rassilon, Gallifrey, and the Master, back into the last day of the Great Time War. So it sends them back into that last day, so I guess they get destroyed.
Oh, so they get sent back into the day that they wind up getting destroyed.
Yes.
So it's like a byproduct of them being sent back. It's not like what the Doctor does destroys them. It's simply...
Yeah, like the Master decides to... The Master, like, uses his lightning powers, his Palpatine powers, to send them to, like... I don't know, it just says... sends all of them, the Time Lords, Rassilon, Gallifrey, and the Master, back into the last day of the last Great Time War. So instead of sending them back into their bubble, they get sent back to the moment that they removed themselves from the war.
Okay.
And have to suffer the fate of the rest of the Time Lords that were left on Gallifrey that all died.
So, the time lock... The Doctor says that nothing can go in or out of it except if the Time Lords decide it can? Is that how that goes?
I guess.
I feel like I'm asking you a lot of questions that you, like...
Well, this is one of those things of, like... I'm not annoyed by you.
No, I know. I'm not saying that.
It's just, it's one of those things where it's like, but why does... But if they could always do this, then why didn't they before? Why did they need to go through all of this trouble? If they could just step out of their time lock bubble. Why did they need to orchestrate all of this?
I did not ask this question. Jamie asked this question. Was I going to ask this question? Yes, I was. But I didn't.
Right. It's just a lot of overcomplicated nonsense to get to the Doctor getting dumped with radiation and having to die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Can we talk about this radiation scene? Because I really should have been more emotional about it, but all I could think was there is a 1/4-inch gap in the glass between the door and the wall.
Right. This
is a
glass
phone booth.
box with 2 doors is not going to contain
That is nothing.
anything.
Like, I don't know who in the prop department was like, oh, yeah, I think we should put some, the insulation from, at least a car door on the inside of the edges here to make it look like it's sealed. It's like an office, like kind of a cheap setup inside of a strip mall office door.
Look, BBC doesn't have a huge budget. They got more of a budget for the next series because
they didn't need to focus the camera on it so often.
Agreed.
I'm going here and I'm going to screenshot it so you guys will see what I'm saying.
At least make it so that the door and the wall, like where it lines up, is flush.
Flush.
At the very least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it's glass. Like, Wilf, just break the glass. Use the chair that's in there and break the glass and get yourself out.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we needed the doctor to sacrifice himself for somebody and then die. It has to be heart-wrenching. And I know I'm downplaying it, but when I originally watched this, and I thought, oh, he's, okay, I know this is his last episode, but he's safe, so what is possibly going to happen? I did not expect the 4 knocks that he was prophesized to be from Wilf. And so when that happened, I was like, oh, shit.
That's fair.
That hurts. And that's exactly the point. That's exactly what Russell T. Davies' point was. He talked about it in the Doctor Who confessional or whatever that is. Like, yeah, we know everybody expected it to be the Master. Then the 4 knocks, the Master, of course. And then the Doctor survives it, and then we're going to rip your heart out by having it be Wilf. And like, oh my god, now the Doctor has to sacrifice himself for Wilf. And that actually made me feel less sad about it. So I was like, you fuckers are just deliberately trying to make people cry.
Yep.
When we're already attached to this guy, we're going to be sad no matter what.
Mm-hmm. That is honestly my biggest complaint about the show overall, is that it feels like it's just blatantly manipulative a lot of the time. And it's really transparent about it. Like, it wants me to feel a certain way, so it's going to do this thing. And I have reached a point in covering stuff that I am a lot better at spotting it. Yeah. And I am a lot less patient about it.
And there's just no subtlety to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's either the music is overbearing to make us feel something, or it's done in this way where it's like, oh, I see what you did there. And now you want me to cry.
Yeah.
And now it's like, it's even worse because now the Doctor is actually sacrificing himself for someone we love.
Yeah.
And we don't want Wilf to die. So there's no real question here of what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they have like this moment. I sent you the screenshot, and I put a circle. If you like click on the screenshot so that it's full size, you'll see a little circle. Because you can see the space there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I see it. I do love Wilf's face, though.
But the Doctor's like has this moment of just like, this is not fair. I could do so much more.
Who are you? You're nobody.
You're not important.
Yeah, I actually really did not like that.
No. Like, they're trying to make it be like, oh, yeah, the Doctor's really struggling with himself about the fact that he is just expected to sacrifice himself. But, like, you're not, though. You're gonna be fine. So I have no sympathy for you, dude.
And, again, you're gonna regenerate into a new guy.
Like, this is exactly it.
You die, but you don't. Like, we don't get to look at David Tennant's face anymore, but the Doctor still exists. Yeah, I get it.
I just don't.
And, like, the first time I watched this, because I was so attached to David Tennant's Doctor, honestly, I don't even remember this little fit that he throws until I rewatched it recently. I really paid attention and was like, ew, I don't like this behavior at all. It's very selfish and very self-important and not really like the Doctor until recently. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I just feel like kind of gross about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you throw a fit and then you're like, well, no, of course I'm going to save you. Of course I am. Because then poor Wilf is in there like, no, it's fine. I've lived a long enough life. Like, you go ahead. You're the most remarkable man. You live.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no. You could have had that conversation without the Doctor throwing a fit first.
You could have had it be, like, if anything, inside of his head. And I know that's not really something that the show has done before, but they also never had a fucking voiceover with Timothy Dalton before. So I'm not really worried about them, like, deciding to do something different here. And not because, like, it's the fact that Wilf can hear it all that makes it so offensive. You're just like, wow.
Exactly. Like, you can have... David Tennant's a good enough actor. You could have him struggle and have it all on his face, and he could absolutely achieve that without throwing a hissy fit.
Mm-hmm.
Without insulting the poor old man who has just been trying to help you this whole time.
Yeah. Oh, of course. That's what you do. You got yourself stuck in there. Like, what the fuck is this, guy?
He told Wilf to go in there.
Yup.
He told him to. It's very upsetting. And it really, this time around, and like when I first did a rewatch, like way before when we first started recording, it really bothered me. Like, it feels mean.
Mm-hmm.
And then to have Wilf, like, standing in there, sort of trying not to cry and being like, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would have been so much more effective if the Doctor stood there in silence with it on his face, not even letting Wilf see his face, so we see what he's feeling and how frustrated he might be, or the struggle that he has to go through, knowing that, like, yeah, it's been told I'm going to die, and it's because of 4 knocks, and now here's what it is. It wasn't what I thought it was. It's this. I have to save somebody. And then have Wilf be, like, figuring it out on his own because he's smart.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, you leave me. It's fine. I've lived a long life. Then it's heartbreaking. Then the sacrifice means something more. Instead of Wilf having that reaction because the Doctor screamed at him that you're not important.
Yeah. Yeah, I also feel like the Doctor's sudden turnaround and then being like, it's an honor. Like, that comes out of nowhere after that little tantrum. It does not feel like he has given it time or really...
It's
you know what I mean? Like, it's just sort of they abruptly try and make it...
Yeah.
I don't know.
It almost feels like they wrote a version where he doesn't have a fit. Where Wilf figures it out. The Doctor, maybe they figure it out at the same time. Like, oh no. This is it. This is what's going to do it, actually. And Wilf is like, no. You're far too important. You're more important than me. I'm an old man. I've lived a full life. And the Doctor says, no, it's my honor to save you.
Right.
But coming on the heels of a fit, they wanted to give David Tennant one last time to shine with his yelling.
With his yelling. Yeah,
I don't know.
Like, his default on this is yelling most of the time.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like it fits. It doesn't feel like it fits him as a character to yell at a person for needing to be saved.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, I also feel like, honestly, the whole vibe that I got here is like if you're at a restaurant and the server gives you the wrong side and you like are like, hey, I asked for a salad instead of fries, and the server just loses their mind. And then you're just like, no, it's fine. I'll have the fries. The fries are fine. No, don't. It's fine. The fries are fine. That's what Will felt like in this scene. Just like, no, don't. Because he's just like, obviously the Doctor's a little bit fragile and can't handle this right now. So I don't want to put the pressure on him to make him go and get that salad. It was a weird, I think you're right about them wanting to showcase things. I think they wanted to do like a bit of a thing with like the person who is always expected to make the sacrifice being resentful of it, which is a lot more high impact if it's, you know, somebody like Jesus versus somebody like the doctor who just comes back as somebody else.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to do a bit of a Jesus thing here, honestly, in a way, like they did in the other episode with the Master, because that's apparently the thing that they like to do with the Doctor and the Master. And just have it be like, what if you have a moment of doubt about the thing that you feel like you were meant to do, that is your destiny, and you kind of reject that or resent that. And that would be a truly interesting thing to explore if it weren't all done within the space of 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. If it were given more time to breathe, if the Doctor even if he had for some reason an inkling that it was going to be Wilf from the beginning, and they didn't decide to manipulate the audience and make the thing with Wilf a surprise, and the Doctor spends part of the episode knowing that he is going to have to make this sacrifice and struggling a lot with that throughout, that would be interesting. I don't know how that works or what that looks like, but I would like to see this like ongoing internal battle throughout everything else, and then him realizing that, like, you know, but again, it's hard for me to even get behind the idea of this internal battle when I know that he regenerates. Like, it fundamentally undoes it. So
yep. It would be a different thing if it were a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we know he regenerates, but if we didn't know that this was David Tennant's last episode, as an audience, on a whole, we all knew.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew who had been cast to replace him. Like, there were no surprises. So why go through all of this?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, his last line of just like, I'm not ready to go, would have been a lot more effective if this were something that snuck up on him.
Yes.
I have to be honest with you, I don't understand the ood being mixed into this at all. Like,
I don't have an explanation for it either. I think they just wanted to have the ood.
Like, they're cool and all. I wouldn't be mad about them getting included in the story again, but them being like the ones that foretold this, yeah, and like appearing to him every time he has like these moments of doubt or he's getting close to his death, that I don't get.
I don't either. And part of me thinks it's just part of this whole, like, we get a little glimpse of not just all of the Doctor's recent companions.
Right.
But a lot of the creatures that were created for Russell T. Davies' version of this show.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's like, here's our last hurrah because we're handing the torch over to a new showrunner and a new Doctor, and maybe we won't see any of these people ever again because these were my creations.
Right.
And I don't know if Moffat's going to use my creations or not. So here's a goodbye to all of the creatures I created. Because when you go to that bar with Captain Jack, you see quite a few of the creatures that were created in this era of Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
And we see all of the recent companions. And the only one there were two that were really effective to me. I mean, I liked seeing, I don't know if you care if we jump ahead to that now.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I liked seeing that Martha and Mickey were together. That's cute.
I like that a lot. Yeah, that was adorable.
And also actually makes a certain amount of sense knowing those two characters. Like, there's just something about them that makes sense. I really love the stuff with Donna. She finally gets her wedding.
Yes.
And the Doctor who's like, I don't carry cash, so I had to borrow a quid off of a very nice man named Jeffrey Noble. Which is a call out to, you know, the dad that died, because he would have been a character had the actor not died. And what he got her was a winning lottery ticket.
Yes.
Which is great.
Yes.
Like, if I took so much from her because to save her life from the, you know, taking on Time Lord energy, the least I can do is make sure she's financially stable for the rest of her life, because she and her husband are happy and also very poor.
Agreed.
And then I like the stuff seeing Rose. because I always liked to see Rose, and I also thought that was really sweet because it wasn't very over, like, melodramatic in any way.
Mm-hmm.
He went back to a time where she doesn't know him yet. She's really happy and young, and it's right before she meets his 9th incarnation.
It's weird how much she seems younger. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how they did that, if it was just, like, the way they had her dressed and her acting, or if they actually digitally did something.
No,
But
I think it was just, like, the longer hair, the clothes, you know, she's very smiley.
Mm-hmm.
So she just had, like, a brighter, like, lighter air about her because she hadn't been through all the stuff yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she said her mom's, like, lamenting about finding a new boyfriend. I can't remember. Does her mom ever, like, wind up with somebody?
Yes, she winds up with Pete from the other universe.
Oh, that's right. They get her dad back.
Yeah.
Oh, weird. Yeah. Yeah, I like Donna a lot. I really love that, like, the first time we meet Donna, it's all about her wedding and that, you know, going wrong. And then the final time that we see her, she's getting it right.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I really liked Mickey and Martha together and agree about, like, just their characters. It doesn't feel like, oh, isn't it convenient? We're just pairing these two off together. It just really feels like the two of them have similar motivations about the way the world is because of what they've learned. And they are both, like, obsessed with this doing the right thing and being militarily involved. So
Yeah, and there's that quick little line where she says, "You're the one who convinced me to go freelance."
right.
So he got her out of working for the government, and now she just kind of works with him doing what he did on the other universe, which is, like, tracking down this shit, taking care of it.
And like, part of the thing is the doctor keeps on showing up for a lot of people to, like, save their lives or save the lives of somebody they care about. So he, like, drops a Santaran that's about to shoot her. Can we just talk for a second about the grossness of that Santaran licking his lips as he's about to shoot her? Because that really made me, like, grossed out.
Yes, totally. Agreed. Why you gotta zoom in on his mouth?
Yeah, you know, like, it makes me think of Twin Peaks. There's a weird fetish that they have with showing, like, ugly dudes' mouths close up when they're about to do something repulsive. But yeah, this thing with saving Sarah's son.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of alliteration. That I just don't really care about Sarah that much. I feel like the panning around from character to character. I really don't need it when they're characters that knew him in his previous incarnation.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's, you know, Martha and Rose, even Rose, like, she knew the previous version, but she fell in love with this version. So,
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. Martha only knew this version. Donna only knew this version. Going and, like, having this big moment with Sarah, like, you're never going to see her again. You just don't know. There's no reason to think that.
Yeah.
And, you know, the revisiting of all the characters, I guess, makes sense, like the different aliens, if they weren't sure that they were going to be used again. So that,
which I think that
makes
is the
sense.
point. Like, we might not see any of these creatures again.
Yeah, so that makes more sense, because I was kind of like, why are they acting like this is just like we don't know if the season's getting renewed, when they know they already have somebody cast and everything. Like, clearly they knew it was getting renewed. It just felt weird.
The other thing is when Jack is in that Star Wars cantina. There's so many, like, Star Wars-y things that happen in this episode, but in that bar. And also Alonso from the Titanic is there.
Oh, right. That's what he's from. Because I was like, I know that this guy is something. What is that?
And the doctor, like, gives him a note, says his name is Alonso. Like, that's just cute. I guess what happened on the other show was that Jack lost somebody on Torchwood.
Oh.
Concurrent with this. So that's why Jack was sitting at that bar being very sad. And the doctor's, like, giving him here you go.
Yeah.
Here's a rebound for you.
I really like the, do you know what I'm thinking right now? Oh, yeah.
I mean, anytime
flirt.
we can have Jack, I'm happy.
That's fair. Yeah. He is charmant.
Yes.
Charmant.
And then there's visiting the great-granddaughter of the woman that he fell in love with when he thought he was human.
Oh, that's what that was. Thank you. Because I was looking at it, I was like, what is this whole thing? I feel like I'm supposed to, and I cannot figure this out. Thank you.
So she basically like found her great-grandmother's journal, which was kind of his journal, and published it.
Gotcha.
And so she's doing like a book signing. And then she realizes when he says his name is the doctor, she's like, that's what he called himself. And like she believed what was written in this journal about this man from the stars.
Right.
Whatever. But yeah, I think it was like, here's our greatest hits.
Can I just say how funny it is in context that she is explaining the book to a person who is apparently there to have it signed? Like they don't know what it is. They were just like, oh, there's a book signing. I've never read it. I don't know what this is about. I don't know this author, but I'm going to stand in line and ask her to give me a summary on the spot before I buy it, get it signed, whatever.
So can we talk about the regeneration?
Yes, let's.
Go.
Oh my God. Really? This is how you want to do this? All right.
Okay, so he starts to regenerate and he turns into a new doctor.
Right. It's rather abrupt. Like, it takes a long time to get to it, but like once it happens, I felt like there was a bit of a pause last time between Eccleston collapsing and like him getting up again as Tennant. But this time he just sort of like doubles over and stands back up and he's already Smith.
Yeah, you actually kind of see his face turn into Matt Smith.
Do you?
Yeah, okay. A little bit.
And yeah, Matt Smith just seems really like unsure whether or not he's going to be a human. Like, there's just something really weird about it, considering that we know all the Time Lords look like people. I don't really understand his concern here. What could go wrong?
I don't know.
It was a weird choice.
What do you think that says about him as a doctor? Do you think that says anything about what he's going to be like?
I think he seems like a mess. Like, he just seems like he doesn't really, like he's going to be charmingly befuddled most of the time. I don't know.
When I saw, the first time I saw a picture of him, when they said, this is who's going to be playing the 11th Doctor, I'd never heard of Matt Smith before. I think most people had not heard of Matt Smith before this. Mm-hmm. I looked at him and I said, well, yeah, he looks like an alien. So that totally makes sense that they would cast this guy. Mm-hmm. And then I just find this little performance really funny. Like, he's like, ears, legs, I have legs. And he kisses his own knee, and he's like Gumby. He's just all like long arms and long legs, and he's so tall.
Is he tall? It's hard to tell because there's like no scale for me in the scene.
I think of him as being tall. He's taller than, I don't know if you know who his companion is, so I won't want to say, but he's taller than his companion. He just seems lanky. And like a Muppet. Like his arms are just like floppy, and then he's like pulls on his hair and it's longish, so he's like, I'm a girl. And then he's like, no, I'm not a girl.
I wanted him to grab his crotch and be like, oh, okay.
That's just a little too graphic.
I guess so. Also, it's a little bit gender normative.
Yeah.
Cis normative, is that how that goes? Yeah.
As somebody who has a certain issue with Stephen Moffat and the way he writes girls, that I'm a girl line in his almost horror at it bothers me.
Yeah, I see that. I definitely see that.
But I do love how Matt Smith says the line because his voice cracks or he's surprised. So I kind of like that. I don't know. He just seems like an alien, and I appreciated that from the start. Like, because this guy is an alien.
You know who he reminds me of? Buddy from Elf.
Will Ferrell?
Mm-hmm.
Like in personality?
Like Buddy's personality? Yeah.
Okay, I can see that because he does not look like Will Ferrell. So I'm just making sure that I'm
not in
tracking
looks,
what
no.
you're saying. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he's there's just something really like the childlike wonder and excitement over every little thing. That just feels really Buddy to me, you know?
I can see that.
I could see him being extremely excited during the Christmas episode about Christmas. You know?
Yeah.
I don't understand why the TARDIS is crashing.
Well, because the regeneration kind of set it all on fire.
Why didn't he just do it and leave the TARDIS where it was? Why did he have to do it while it was flying?
Because we needed to have the Doctor be like, what was happening? Something was going on. Oh, right, we're crashing.
Yeah, I guess that's true. They wanted that to happen. Because, like, if I'm the Doctor and I know I'm about to regenerate, I'm not pressing on the gas. Like, you know, I don't want to have that going while I'm in the middle of this thing.
Yeah.
This dramatic change.
So this regeneration scene from the point where the regeneration starts is written by Stephen Moffat, and everything else is written by Russell T Davies.
Huh. Okay.
Stephen Moffat wrote for the 11th Doctor, starting with this scene. So all of that is Moffat. Maybe the decision to be in space was Moffat too, because he wanted it to crash. I'm not sure. I just know that anything with Matt Smith was written by Stephen Moffat.
So I feel like I saw somewhere that some dude was like, I don't remember where it was, but there was some guy at some point that was like whining about how they made the Doctor young and attractive to appeal to girl fans.
I'm sure that was some people's opinion. My opinion at the time was they just keep making the Doctor younger and younger because Matt Smith is significantly younger than David Tennant. I don't know how much, but maybe as many as 10 years.
Yeah.
And David Tennant was younger than Christopher Eccleston, but not an extreme younger. But it seemed like they're just going younger. And they cast very attractive people to be his companions, and there was a lot of romancy stuff so far. So I think that was a concern, that they keep making the Doctor younger to draw in maybe a younger audience, but maybe a younger female audience. Now, I think that David Tennant is a more attractive person than Matt Smith. I do think Matt Smith is incredibly appealing, but I also think he looks like an alien. I don't see like hot from him personally.
No, not at all. I mean,
but he's an incredibly compelling actor.
I am often somebody who goes for the goofy one. So he may grow on me, but I could not remember his name. And I was talking to somebody about like the Doctor that comes after Tennant. And I believe I said, you know, the one that looks like a foot.
Jesus.
And I'm like, he just has a very weird face to me.
He has a very weird face, and I think he'll grow on you for sure. But I couldn't get over the fact that it really looks like he has no eyebrows, although he has fantastic hair. And he's just so odd looking that I was like, if they're trying to go, because I heard all of the complaints from people like, oh, they're making him younger. Oh, it's just to get girls. I'm like, but he's not hot.
That was where I was going with this, was just like, do these guys think that this is like, this dude's a real hunk? Like, all it is that he's younger. That's really it.
That's
I don't
all
know
it
what
is,
you're like whining about.
And honestly, I think it was that he was the exact right person for the role. And once you see him more in the role, I think you'll agree. Regardless of his age, I think that what Moffat did was find the guy that could play what he wrote the way it should be, and maybe even better than it was written. So we'll see. There was apparently some controversy, some dumb internet controversy over the line "still not ginger." It's like people forgot that when Tennant came on, he looked in the mirror and said, "Still not ginger." Like, so Matt Smith also says, "Still not ginger" when he sees his hair is brown, and like people misinterpreted this as a negative comment on redheaded people, which resulted in more than 140 complaints being filed to the BBC.
Good Lord.
In response, the BBC issued an official statement clarifying that the Doctor was stating disappointment at not being a ginger, a reference to the 10th Doctor similarly expressing a wish to be ginger.
These people, guys.
Just fucking so ridiculous.
Relax. It's fine.
Like, seriously, calm yourselves. Plus, Donna, obviously they're not against redheads. Donna's a redhead.
Is she?
Yeah. Completely. Like, natural redhead.
God, I never even noticed. I guess in Turn Left, the woman says it's free for redheads today.
Yeah, she's got very dark red hair, but it's red hair.
God, I've realized over like the past couple of months that I'm not good at telling hair color because of the ads that I'm getting on Facebook for hair dyes. Do you get these like Madison Reed commercials? No. Oh, guys. I get so many ads for like Overtone and Madison Reed and
I get the Overtone ones.
And it is like, they'll be like, get your most beautiful blonde. And I'm like, that's brown. What? Really? I guess. I mean, there's highlights, but I clearly have a really different, like, I see most things as being brown unless they are extreme. Like, unless red hair is orange, I see it mostly as brown. Unless blonde hair is like ash blonde, like Malfoy blonde, I see it as light brown. You know, it's weird. Yeah. I don't know why I'm like that, but I'm not good at it. But yeah, anyway, so Matt Smith, we'll see. But as of right now, he seems real weird.
Well, that was one person's question for you, was your first impression of Matt Smith's Doctor, so we covered that.
Yep.
I do have a number of questions from our audience.
Okay.
To get some feedback from you on now that we are at the end of the Davies era.
Okay.
To go along with that, one Matt Smith question is, based on the 30 seconds that we saw, what kind of companion do you think would match him the best?
I think he needs like a McGonagall. Because he just does not seem like the guy that's going to be able to like keep track of shit. He's going to need a mommy a little bit.
Okay.
So that's the vibe that I get. He just seems like a mess. He seems like the guy that like gets off the tube and leaves his briefcase. And then we watch a show that's like 45 minutes of him really trying to get his briefcase back. And all of the like bumbling Mr. Beanish type adventures he gets up to because he's just trying to get his briefcase back.
Okay. I mean, I can't say anything. So.
I know, you can't.
Laura Weisgarber would like to know some of your predictions about where you think the show is headed.
Well, that's just so impossible to say because the show doesn't head anywhere that I could have predicted in the first place. Everything is like, a lot of it is just revisiting characters or issues that are from previous, like, older episodes. Mm-hmm. You know, like the Master coming back and all of that is all based on somebody that existed previous that I never knew about and wouldn't have known about. And I feel like I get the feeling that is a Russell T. Davies kink. Mm-hmm. That maybe future writers are not going to fall into as much. I kind of hope they don't, because that feels to me a little bit like they're trying so hard to appeal to older fans of, that they are sacrificing what could be some original ideas that they have come up with in order to just go back to that well. It feels a little bit like Rise of Skywalker to me, where it's like, well, we're just going to, reference all this old shit. And
we're just going to give you what you already like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful that they do a bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with older stuff. That is not to say that if they do some things that are referential that I'll be mad about it. But I would like them to stretch their muscles a little bit more.
This ties into one of Debbie Purdue's questions, which is, what villains would you like to see return next season and ones that you hope won't come back?
Obviously, I want whatever the fuck was in the Midnight episode to come back, because that shit is scary AF. Okay. I do not want to see any goddamn Daleks again. Listen, you can't all just be like, oh, the last Dalek, the only Dalek left, and then immediately be like, hey, there's so many Daleks. Like 2 different episode finales or season finales in a row. I would like to see, let's see, just villains. I'm trying to remember who are some other, because I loved the, what are the ones that take over the bodies of people on Earth, and they're like, the woman tries to shoot Eccleston with a dart in the face from her finger.
Oh, the Rex of the big fat green monsters?
Yeah. We saw one of them in the little cantina this episode.
Yeah.
Now, I don't like...
The Slitheen was their family name, but they're actually called something else. They
are really stupid designs. Like, they look really dumb as fuck. But I did rather enjoy that, weird storyline with her. I want somebody like that to come back, because she was just fun. She was just a good time. So I kind of want that one Slitheen lady to come back. But, okay. That's pretty, very specifically her only.
Okay. Let's see. What was your favorite thing about David Tennant's version of the Doctor, and what did you not like?
I liked, for example, when in this episode, the Master finally takes the gag off of his mouth, and he says, "Oh, that's much better. Hello." I liked those weird moments where he did that, where he reacted in a casual, excited way in the midst of something that's an outright emergency. I always found that pretty amusing. I did not love his yelling all the time.
Yeah.
That's pretty much, yeah. This episode's the perfect wrap up of that, really.
Okay. Do you feel like he changed with his different companions?
Not really. I feel like they were trying to do that a little bit with Donna and having him think things through a little bit more and reconsider whether or not it was right if he got involved. But then they went too far with it and had him just decide
Time Lord victorious.
Yeah. So then it feels like he course corrected again back to where he had been before he met Donna. I don't know. Yeah, I don't really think so, though. No, I don't get that impression.
That was a question from Kat Slater, who also wants to know, do you think he grew as a character? Which sounds like you think no.
Yeah, no.
Do you think that he learned anything as a 10th Doctor that he'll take on as the next Doctor?
I mean, he isn't sure he's gonna have legs, so no.
Keep in mind that when they first regenerate, they're kind of wonky.
Okay, yeah,
they're not fully cooked yet.
It's really hard to know because they change their minds about what they want the Doctor to retain from one to another. So I don't know.
Okay. Also from Kat, how do you compare 10 to 9?
9's definitely a much bigger dickhead. So, like, I can understand why people like 10 better, because he's just a little bit more, like, comedic. He seems to be having a better time most of the time.
Yeah.
I was still getting used to, like, what the Doctor was with 9. And I feel like the storylines that he was in felt a bit more straightforward to me in terms of, like, cause and effect. And with 10, it felt like we really got to see him be a bit more like of a colonizer, with his mentality of just going in places and being like, I know best. I will tell you how this is going to go. And
we did have more time with him.
That was what I was about to say. I feel like that's a product of just getting more screen time. Yeah. And that probably 9 would have been the same way if we had just, been hanging out with him for longer. So it's hard, like, in a lot of ways, I prefer the vibe of Tennant, but I feel like he has this thing going on with him because of the arrogance, where as much as I like his vibe, he feels a lot more threatening to me because he seems so likable. And yet when you really get down to it, he's kind of a bastard. So I think I like 9 better because he might be a douche, but, like, he's very honest about being that douche, you know?
Yeah.
He's straightforward about it, and it's not, like, hidden anywhere.
So what do you hope the 11th Doctor does that the 10th did not?
I want him to give me a tour of the fucking TARDIS, please. I am really still mad that we haven't gotten to find out. We got to see, like, the dressing room that one time.
Yeah.
What is up with the TARDIS, everyone? How is this not something that more people are expressing curiosity about? That's the part, like, there was a tweet that somebody said when they were listening to the show, and they were like, I really like all of your questions about the TARDIS and what, like, blah, blah, blah. I never thought of that. How have you never thought of that? You don't want to know where they sleep? You don't want to know what kind of kitchen there is? Do they just eat out all the time? Is there no cooking happening? Does he know how to cook? Does he eat does he just drink, like, Soylent?
Where does the food come from?
Yeah, do they stop at planets in order to go shopping? Because him and Donna are, like, just wandering around a marketplace at one point. Is that just part of their chores? Or are they out here, like, looking for keepsakes and they're not buying food? Like, I don't know. So that's really just, like, a thing that I want to know more about. That really doesn't have as much to do with 11. I would like him to, I would like him to listen to other people more.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably number 1. Like, be more receptive and less certain that you already know what you need to know about everything. And that's not to say that there weren't the occasional episodes where David Tennant is like, oh, I'm so stupid, I didn't realize this and that, or I don't know what to do here, and oh, now I figured it out. But I feel like it was less frequent that somebody else solved the problem. And I wouldn't mind if he, like, got saved by somebody else here and there, So there's 2 questions that sort of go together. They're sort of similar. One's from Kat, and the other one is from Abby Jane. Kat wants to know, what do you think of the Russell T Davies era as a whole, and how do you think it'll be different under Moffat? And Abby wants to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how glad you are to be done with Tennant and Russell T Davies. Well, see, this is the thing, is that I can't say how glad I am because I don't know what's coming. Jamie says, #it gets better. So I'm trusting Jamie on this. As far as what I think of it as a whole, it's just a big old mess. Like, really, the issue for me is that it feels like Davies did not want to commit to any rules. He wanted to say that there was a rule in an episode in order to immediately break that rule within the same episode that he announced that rule existed, in some misguided attempt to be shocking and be like, well, we can't possibly do the thing. And then by the end, we have to do the thing that I said we couldn't possibly do. And it's like, nobody cares about that rule or is impressed by this because that rule has existed for 11 minutes. So I am not invested in that rule. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I can say is the Doctor deciding to break a fixed point in time. That was a rule that had been established going for several episodes, like seasons. Yeah. And so when he chooses to break that feels a lot more meaningful. And I'm hoping that we get more of that sort of thing going forward, where there is a rule that they are committed to, that they aren't just establishing in order to undermine it a second later. Because the universe doesn't feel grounded to me in a lot of ways, because they have just decided that they're going to break whatever rules they need and pretend those rules didn't even exist, and that we all have to collectively pretend that they never existed in order for different moments to work. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to pretend that I don't remember how just like 2 episodes ago we did the exact thing that you're now acting like isn't a thing.
Yeah.
Or
so
we're
you
not
just
going to
want
have
more consistent storytelling.
Yeah, and I just will never, guys. I'll never recover, ever recover from the episode where they are all on the cannibal planet and they get cornered. And then all of a sudden, Jack just has like a teleporter on his wrist that like they just get to work and the next episode begins and they are already escaped. Mm-hmm. I cannot with that. I would just never forgive them for that. That is just so, it is so shameless.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing, I really hope that they don't do I've suddenly got the problem solver in my pocket. Mm-hmm. That's number one.
It's been there the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Here's this machine that is specifically made to do the thing that we just happen to need to do right now. And it's here the whole time, or I just happen to find the person who knows how to build it or whatever. So yeah, I want more like problems that seem like they might take multiple episodes to solve, or that are more of like a crisis of like morality and less of I need this like MacGuffin thing to fix the problem, that kind of thing.
This ties into a question that was asked of me that I said recently that I feel differently about the Tennant era episodes than I used to. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to know what changed for me. And really it boils down to having to discuss the show in this way for a podcast forces me to be more analytical about it. I really used to just watch it, not brainlessly, but I guess I wasn't really paying close attention to where those plot holes were. I didn't care. Mm-hmm. It was a fun show. I was enjoying it because it was fun, and I didn't think about it too much. It was just one of those shows that I could watch and enjoy, and I like aspects of it. I like the Doctor. I like the companions. I like the TARDIS. I like some of the creatures. It was just it was a very low impact show. Mm-hmm. But when I had to dig into it and talk about it from a storytelling perspective, there are just so many holes. There's so much inconsistency, and it's just like what you're saying. It's the same complaints that they will make an issue, say this can't be done, and then do it. Mm-hmm. That there were really no rules that were followed from episode to episode. There was very little carryover, no overarching sort of story. Even when they tried to do it, it was still very ham-fisted. Mm-hmm. There was so little subtlety happening. So there's still stuff I love about a lot of these episodes. But going back through them, I realize, even in seasons that I'm like, oh no, season 2 so great. Actually, not really. Only a few really strong episodes. And that's what it's come down to, is every season has some really strong episodes and then a whole lot of filler that has no consequence. And even something as heartbreaking to me, like losing Rose, was undone later.
Mm-hmm.
To an extent. And at the time, I was like, yay, Rose, oh my God, I'm so happy to have Rose back. But then when I really thought about it, talking about it on this show, it's like, but that just takes away how much it broke my heart for them to be separated in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And they should have left it. Because that's tragedy. And tragedy is good TV.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's what changed, is that I really started to look at it from a detail point of view. And the details just fall apart. And so ultimately, it's really not good storytelling. There's some good stories in there. But mostly, they're only okay or not good at all. And honestly, the best ones were the ones I thought were the best ones before. Really, they're the ones that were done by Stephen Moffat. Because he told complete stories.
Yeah.
And so now going into what will be his era of running the show, I had problems with it. But what I'm realizing now is part of my problem with it was that I was attached to David Tennant's doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And I was attached to other companions. And I kind of carried that sort of weird resentment over to the new era. And now that I've rewatched it, I like it so much. I can't wait to talk about it. And I think that you're going to really like it too, because it really is just totally different.
Well, fingers crossed. I hope so.
I hope so too.
This is part of why I was reticent to cover this. It took a lot of convincing and a lot of people showing interest, because I had only watched one episode of Doctor Who ever. And I did not see how it was going to withstand the kind of analysis that I do on most of my shows. I was just like, guys, why? I couldn't understand why people wanted me to cover it, because I felt like they had to know I was going to tear it apart. And it baffled me. I was just like, I understand you wanting a podcast about the show in general. Mm-hmm. And being interested in just more Doctor Who content for your ears. But it feels like I am the wrong person to give it to you, because I am just going to be harsh about it. And I mean, I did get a comment last week that indicates that exact thing, which is somebody who was just like, I am never going to listen to this show again because Natasha just rips it apart. I mean, I feel like if you are asking me to cover it, I hope you know that's what you're signing up for. And it feels like with Jamie, like you knew coming into it was going to be that way, but I think you maybe weren't even prepared for how like deep the cuts were going to wind up going, because you have sort of like changed your mind about things as well now.
I was expecting to have to convince you of things that were great. And then what blindsided me was that I didn't think that stuff was as great anymore. So it really just became a like, oh, so like when I watched this, I was like this naive, dumb baby. And now I'm a grown-up and I don't watch it like a dumb baby anymore. So I still love it, but I don't love all of it all the time. I still love it, guys. I still love Doctor Who, but I'm not as, like, blindly like, yes, it's so great. 'Cause you know what? Sometimes it's not. And that's okay. Like, it's okay if we don't think it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not perfect. It's fine. It's still fun. There's still even stuff that we're like, this is so fucking stupid. But we're still laughing about it because it's still fun most of the time. There's only been a couple of episodes where we're both like, oh my fucking God. Garbage. I don't even want to talk about it. Most of the time we're like, yeah, this is stupid, but this part made me laugh.
That's the main thing. It's like, I'm like, I hope that everybody like is satisfied with the show itself, even if we're like really ragging on episodes themselves, that like us doing so, I hope it is still entertaining and that it's not just coming across as like, fuck this fucking show. Even though I definitely was like heading in that direction when it came to the way they like dealt with Martha, because I just got so angry.
But that's justified. That was just fucking bullshit, that whole thing.
Yeah.
All of that whole season, pretty much, minus Blink, was bullshit.
Yeah.
We're also not shitting on it for the purpose of shitting on it.
Exactly. Like
I
really
critical.
believe that there are a lot of episodes that I did not like, but that had a ton of potential. And that's the thing that I find the most frustrating, just in general podcasting, is when I'm covering something and I can like see what they were going for, but they just did not have whatever it takes, whether it's they didn't have the right actors for it, they didn't have the right commitment to the idea, and they were just a little bit too like, you know, because that seems like what tends to happen is that, especially on shows that are really long running, they are extremely afraid to have there be long lasting consequences to things. So what you were talking about with Rose, like coming back and them having another version of the Doctor for her to walk into the sunset with.
Yeah, that still bugs me. It bugged me at the time too.
It feels like cowardice.
It feels cheap. Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, it's just like you can't just have something like an unhappy ending for a character and we can trust that like she goes on and lives her life and is able to recover from this eventually and be a person. Like, so that takes a certain maturity and a trust in your audience as well. And I think that it was
I think it
just
boils down to that Davies didn't trust that the audience would be okay with it. He was too reliant on the old stuff.
It seems like they were like really trying to be like, well, this is for kids, at the same time as like exploring themes that are very much not for kids. But then sort of trying to fall. It's almost like that thing that happens with like Game of Thrones where people are like, oh, you think that a woman who has a bunch of dragons is fine, but this is something that's beyond belief, how fast they travel to the wall from here and there. It's like you can have supernatural or sci-fi elements to a thing and still have it be grounded in reality.
Yeah.
And I think that they tried to like do that. Well, you know, really it's for kids, so we can just do whatever. Kids are fine with consequences to things. Like they can handle that. There's no reason to blame children for the fact that you're being a wimp.
Also, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's cowardly. That there really are no consequences that are lasting for anything. And TV is different now than it was in the 80s. It's different than it was in the 60s. If you're going to update a show, you have to update the show for the time. So either make a show for children and make sure that everybody knows this is a show for children, or cater to the people who are adults who liked it as a kid and say, you're a grown-up now. These are grown-up stories.
Right.
But don't try to do it both ways, because then the whole thing suffers. And also I think that this show just really suffered from really poor writing.
Yeah.
That there was no firm story that was being told. So it's like there was no show Bible.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need to have every plot point mapped out ahead of time, but you need to seem to have an idea where you're going.
Yeah, there was no direction whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's like they wanted every episode to just be completely self-contained. But then sometimes they wanted there to be some sort of arc, but in order to make that arc, because everything was self-contained, they had to shove things in. And so it always felt like things were being forced.
Yeah.
And I really think that Davies just was melodramatic in the ways that he thought this is going to tug at people's heartstrings.
Yeah.
Instead of actually just letting us care and giving us reasons to care. And what saves the show from all of that mess are the performances.
Yeah, agreed on that for sure.
Like, Tennant carried the show through some nonsense. And Catherine Tate, really, there's so much credit to her because what she did with Donna, I feel like she grounded that character and made her more than probably was even written on the page.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's not something that Freema did with Martha. And really not always something that Billy Piper did with Rose.
Yeah.
Like, I think ultimately now Donna was the best companion that we had, for sure.
Oh, definitely. Listen, she packed.
That's true.
Like, right there, she is already more prepared and practical and long-term thinking than anybody. And I respect the hell out of that, and I appreciate that she calls the doctor out all the time. All the time. Do you hear me?
So is that what you want from another companion, a new companion? Is
if
it not just somebody who's like McGonagall, who, like, makes sure he's, eating his breakfast and putting on his pants, but that will, like, call him on his bullshit?
I mean, I feel like we all need that in general in life. So yes. I also think, like, it depends on the way this doctor is going to be. If he like, Tennant needed that.
Yeah.
Tennant was running roughshod over entire civilizations and just doing whatever the fuck. And that was just a huge pet peeve for me. So Donna was like, thank God, finally. I don't know what this doctor's going to be like. If he's going to be more introspective, if he's going to be more full of self-doubt, then we want a companion who is going to believe in him and encourage him. I don't know that, how much their personalities change, because I don't really see a doctor being full of self-doubt being a thing. But I could be wrong about that. It might be that he's so racked with guilt with all of his weirdo past decisions that he's, like, stymied and doesn't take a step in any direction because he's so, like, aware finally of the consequences of some of his other choices,
Based on what you know of Stephen Moffat, because you watched Sherlock, have you watched his new show?
What's
the
the new one?
Dracula on Netflix?
Oh my God, is that him? No, I haven't.
That's Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss. They did that one together too.
Oh.
So just based on Sherlock, which I, as I've stated, have only watched the first episode and, like, maybe the first 20 minutes of the second episode, and then was like, it's not for me, and I quit. But I apparently need to give it another try. What do you think he will bring, based on what you know of his style?
God, it's so hard to say. Like, even with Sherlock, I hated season 3, like, really hated it. And then when I went and rewatched it when covering it with Rashawn, I liked it a lot more. And I was just really hard on it the first time around because I kind of didn't get it. Although, don't get me wrong, there is some that is still trash in that season. So part of, like, he does like to do kind of intricate storylines and fake outs, but the fake outs don't feel quite so cheap. There definitely is an overarching, like, sort of theme that he goes for, and he's pretty character driven most of the time. So I'm just hopeful about that, because really that's the way to my heart.
Yeah.
Is just making sure that things are happening because your characters are behaving the way that your characters behave. If you're having them do things that don't make any sense, or make choices because of, like, a strong outside influence that they wouldn't make otherwise, I hate it. I hate that. So I just hope that he sticks with, like, the character stuff, because that seems to be what I've liked of his. And
based on the episodes that he wrote for this series that you've seen, there was the Doctor Dances and the one right before it. That was a 2-parter. And I think you really liked that one.
I liked the one before it. I did not love the Doctor dances.
Okay.
It was fine. But I don't feel like I loved it. I like the lead up to it better.
And then there was The Girl in the Fireplace, which I love. Still my favorite episode.
Yeah, I like that one pretty well.
And Blink.
Right,
which
I like Blink.
Is a nice self-contained story.
Yeah.
I feel like there was one in Donna's season. I'm blanking on it. Hold on, I'm going to look it up really quick. But I think the reason that I was so excited about him taking over the show, and why, like, my friend Darnell, who watched Doctor Who as religiously as I did, was excited about it, was because we liked how he told stories about characters. He was really, his stories on the show were just always sort of character driven, even if it wasn't like the Doctor Dances, that 2-parter. It wasn't like his other self-contained ones where he created these characters that we then never see again, like Renette or Sally Sparrow. But he told a story about the Doctor that was compelling. Do I not know how to spell Stephen Moffat?
It's Stevenmoffat.
That's what I thought.
What's happening over there?
Well, I was trying to just look him up and not put in Doctor Who, because then I have to scroll. Yeah, anyway, the reason I was so excited was...
Midnight?
No, that one actually was Russell T Davies.
Okay. Well, Russell, you got one right.
Yeah. And remember, that one came out of... There was another story that was written, and it got scrapped.
Right. Just so funny.
Oh, I think Stephen Moffat did Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, so, and those are also 2 of my favorite episodes of the whole series. So,
and that makes sense because they really bear a strong resemblance to season 3 of Sherlock. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. That makes me more compelled to watch Sherlock, strangely. So yeah, I think he tells stories about people, because even in Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead, you've got these compelling characters that were created, all of them. And so that's what I was most excited about going into season 5, was that there were going to be, the stories I felt were going to be stronger, and that there would be more character work. That was my hope.
Do you know what I had thought when Wilf tells the Doctor that Donna is engaged? I thought we were going to see the guy that she met in the library world.
Oh, that would have been sweet.
Right? And he would somehow have, like, found her. They would have, like, somehow this would have connected. And... That
would have been sweet, but it probably would have triggered something in her brain, and then she would have exploded and killed him.
Ah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so I think that we covered all of the questions. There are some that, I don't know, like, what do you think was the best and the worst episode and whatever, but we're running
I feel like
a little bit long.
We pretty much talked about that anyway, yeah.
Yeah. We did have one
we all agree that Cannibal Planet and everything that happened there, and that, like, the master finale thing, that was terrible. And Midnight was by far my favorite episode.
Yeah. Other than John Sims' performance as the Master, which I think is just a wonderful feat of overacting. Love it. We have one review. It's very quick. It is, I'm behind, but y'all are asking for reviews, so here you go. 5 stars by Katrin96 from the United States. I like this podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
That's all it takes, ladies and gentlemen.
And now we're done with David Tennant and Russell T Davies and probably all of these companions.
What did Russell T Davies do after this? Like, was he fired? How did this go?
No, he left. I believe that his partner was sick, was part of it. And his partner did, I think it was his husband. He did die.
No.
So that's sad. Like I think
this.
Yeah, I think he left because it was time. David Tennant was leaving, and I think he took that as a, you know what, now would be the time, like just a full handover to someone else.
Yeah.
But also, I think that there was some stuff going on in his personal life that needed attention as well.
Yeah.
He seems like a very nice person. Like, I don't have anything against him, for sure. You know, like, he's not exactly the best writer, but he seems like a lovely person who really, really loves Doctor Who. And I guess you can't ask for something more when a show is brought back from the dead, like it was, than to have somebody running it that truly loves it. And that goes for David Tennant, too. David Tennant grew up loving Doctor Who, always wanted to be the Doctor, but never thought that he would get to play the Doctor. That was like his Luke Skywalker, you know? Like, he just loved that character so much. So him getting to play the Doctor was like a literal dream come true for him. And it showed in his performance. He loved being that character. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I just wish now, going piece by piece through these episodes, that some of them had better stories to tell. That's all.
Yeah. Agreed.
But now we get to move on to the next era, and I really think that you're going to enjoy it.
Yay!
So now Candace can start listening.
Oh, does she not listen to the first?
I don't know if she listens or not, but I know that she loves the 11th Doctor.
For those who don't know who we're talking about, Candace is the resident unspoiled curmudgeon.
She really is.
She took the spot of Miles, who has decided that he's going to be more positive about things. And Candace was like, oh, well, if you're not going to do it, I'll do it. And she stepped right into that. So
yeah, she's a huge fan of the 11th Doctor. He's her doctor, and also my sister-in-law, Jessica. He's her doctor as well. So I know they're very excited for us to get to this point.
Cool.
Hi, Jess. Jess has had the flu, and she's pregnant, and she's pretty miserable. So,
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hi, Jess. I love you.
That sucks. All right. Well, this episode is 2 hours long, so we have got to wrap.
Yes, I have to go eat dinner.
Say hi to a new patron real quick, because we have one since the last time. Hello to Robert V.D. Hill.
Hello.
I hope that you have been enjoying being a patron and all the content and whatnot. And we will be recording next week on the Eclipse movie. So that's coming up. So everybody get ready. Dun, dun, dun. All right, guys. Thank you all again so much for listening and pledging. Those of you who have, if you're interested in pledging, you can go to patreon.com/unspoiled and find us at facebook.com/unspoiledpod, Twitter at Unspoiled Show, Instagram at Unspoiled Podcast, and unspoiledpodcast@gmail.com. All right, guys. We'll see you next week with the start of season 5.
Season 5.
Damn.
Yay.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.